You know, we all have a lot of data, and it has to positively, absolutely stay safe. It can't get into the wrong hands, and the biggest challenge we have is how to transfer it from here to there. We all know as leaders that legacy tools that transfer our important files and sensitive data are mostly outdated and fall short on security, especially with the demands of today's remote workforce. Relying on outdated technology puts our organization's brand at risk, and that is unacceptable. So we're excited to invite you to step into the future of completely secured managed file transfer from our friends at Kiteworks. Kiteworks is absolutely, positively the most secure managed file platform on the market today. They've been FedRAMP moderate authorized by the Department of Defense since 2017. And unlike traditional legacy systems with limited functionality, Kiteworks has unmatched software security with ongoing bounty programs and regular pen testing to minimize vulnerabilities. And the coolest part, they have easy to use one-click appliance updates you will love. Step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks. Visit kiteworks.com to get started. That's kiteworks.com to get started today. And now, the show. There is nothing more sacred than innocent lives. What is more important than the innocence of children? The ones who can't protect themselves or are too young to simply know how. And what is more dangerous than adults, people who prey on those innocent lives? Today, we bring you deep into the dark web where predators prey on those who can't or don't know how to protect themselves. As we speak with two experts who have helped protect the lives of children and assisted law enforcement with over 500 successful investigations, many leading to the prosecution and capture of many predators, leading to the incarceration, some for decades and some for even hundreds of years in their sentences. When online, we enter their world. Catching online predators is extremely difficult. We need to not only identify who the predators are, but where they are, what devices they're using, and to prove that it was them, in fact, using it at the time of the crimes. On the dark web, things are anonymous. It's because of the way it's structured. So let's all learn how we can protect innocent lives from what we hear about today from these experts. We sit down with Searchlight Cyber. They aid law enforcement with their dark web exposure platform, along with Chris Hannigy, 5-time best-selling author and founder of the Innocent Lives Foundation. There's even a way that you can help volunteer time if you're interested in helping with the Innocent Lives Foundation. We'll show you how, and you don't have to go on the dark web or anything like that. This is the story of how to protect children online. Come join us as we dive deeper behind the scenes of security and cybercrime today, interviewing top technology leaders from around the world and sharing true cybercrime stories to raise awareness. From the creators of Vigilance, the newest global technology newsletter, translating cyber news into business language we all understand. So please help us keep this going by subscribing for free to our YouTube channel and downloading our podcast episodes on Apple and Spotify so we can continue to bring you more of what matters. This is Cybercrime Junkies, and now the show. Welcome, everybody, to Cybercrime Junkies. I'm your host, David Morrow, and we have a very special episode today. We're joined by Carl, who is a experienced investigator with a demonstrated history of working with law enforcement, criminology, covert investigations, and cryptocurrency. And we're also joined by 5-time best-selling author Christopher Hannigy, who is also the founder of Innocent Lives Foundation, which we will get into. We've mentioned in other episodes all of the work that they're doing to protect children and to hunt down online predators. So welcome, gentlemen. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. So, Carl, let's begin with you. Walk us through some of your history. I mean, I'm curious how somebody grows up and then learns to do what you do, right? Like when you were a kid, did you kind of go, I'm going to uncover the dark web? Like what was it that drove you or got you down this path?
It's an interesting question. I spent a lot of time when I was younger with not really much of an aim or a goal with what I really wanted to do. And my mum met her partner, and he worked in the police. And I think on meeting him and talking to him and discovering all the things that he does, it really sort of inspired me and pushed me on a path to be like, okay, I think I want to pursue a career, at least in law enforcement for a bit. And then during my time at university, studying criminology, as you mentioned, I, in some of my spare time, sort of started to take a look and be like, oh, what is the dark web? How does it work? And it just so happened around that time, the UK was setting up their dark web investigation teams. I was lucky enough to apply and join, and my career sort of blossomed from there. Excellent.
So, I mean, really, for our listeners have varying degrees of experience with cybersecurity, cybercrime. For those that don't have the experience, can you just explain from a high level the dark web and how people access it in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So the dark web is accessed via Tor routing, which is essentially just a way of routing your network traffic through a bunch of proxies that are only aware of sort of the first and last one. So it gives you this sense of anonymity, also allows you to access some websites which aren't available through sort of your traditional clear web means.
Right. And then there's also, there's a lot of criminal element online. We see it even on the clear net, on the regular net. But Telegram is also a thing too, isn't it? Like Telegram it's a encrypted communication channel on the clear net, but there's a lot of cyber criminals that live in both. Is that accurate or?
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of a more convenient way for people to sort of use a form of encrypted messaging to talk about things that they want to do. And when you have these pieces of anonymity where it's harder to get this information on what people are talking about, people will generally try and use that for illicit means.
Yeah. So when we think about law enforcement's efforts to combat cybercrime and to hunt down cyber criminals, when we think of the cybercrime gangs out there or individuals, what are some of the methods and what has your experience shown some of the challenges that they're facing?
So a lot of the challenges, there's sort of one main big overarching challenge, right, which is de-anonymizing these individuals. With a lot of the technological know-how of these individuals, as well as the tools out there for them to use, sort of you can get away with quite a lot of things under this guise of anonymity. And then the main challenge is then, okay, so how are we going to attribute these actions to an individual or a group of individuals?
Okay, so that's a really good distinction, right? Like, who are they, right? Is one challenge, as you mentioned, right? Like, actually, identifying who they actually are in real life, and then attributing the actions from a location of a device or something to that person.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that is a challenge. So how?
Yeah, it's not easy.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad you guys are doing it. Like that sounds like I thought my job was hard. Like that's a tall order to start my day trying to solve that one. How do we? So the dark web, like, I mean, when I talk to business people that don't know anything about what you've got, like they don't understand it, right? I mean, their response is, "You've got to be kidding me that in today's day we can't shine a light completely on the dark web. Like, how are they able to still remain anonymous?" And I know that it probably grates against people like you and Chris who are such experts in it, but humor us and like fill us in. Like, how do we not have full visibility into this? I mean, my bank knows if I'm takes a road trip and goes to like Dubuque, Iowa, and slashes my card into the gas pump. They're pinging me. They're like, "Is this you? Are you in Dubuque, Iowa?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am, apparently." But like they're able to do that. How are we not able to catch these guys?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We all have a lot of data, and it has to positively, absolutely stay safe. It can't get into the wrong hands. And the biggest challenge we have is how to transfer it from here to there. We all know as leaders that legacy tools that transfer our important files and sensitive data are mostly outdated and fall short on security, especially with the demands of today's remote workforce. Relying on outdated technology puts our organization's brand at risk, and that is unacceptable. So we're excited to invite you to step into the future of completely secured managed file transfer from our friends at Kiteworks. Kiteworks is absolutely, positively the most secure managed file platform on the market today. They've been FedRAMP moderate authorized by the Department of Defense since 2017. And unlike traditional legacy systems with limited functionality, Kiteworks has unmatched software security with ongoing bounty programs and regular pen testing to minimize vulnerabilities. And the coolest part, they have easy to use one-click appliance updates you will love. Step into the future of secure managed file transfer with Kiteworks. Visit kiteworks.com to get started. That's kiteworks.com to get started today. And now, the show.
So, due to the way that sort of the traffic is routed, it's impossible to sort of say, okay, this person has accessed this site from this location, from this device. You sort of have to go by a lot of the monikers, the names, the usernames that people decide to use online, and track that activity sort of across a bunch of different sites, forums, messaging boards, and try and sort of piece together this larger puzzle of who these individuals are, if slight variations in username mean that they're the same person, or if people just like to use this particular strand of usernames, they talk about the same things, they talk in the same languages. Just trying to put all these little pieces together to get a better picture of who the actor or group of actors are.
Absolutely. Your experience with cryptocurrency investigations, what can you walk us through what you've seen, or what some of the I don't even know what I want to ask, honestly, about that, because we've done some investigations, some stories on a lot of cryptocurrency frauds. I mean, you've got Jerry Cotton up in Canada, who had the largest Canadian crypto exchange and then vanished or died. There's debate on that. I mean, clearly it seems like he's dead, but then there's a lot of debate on other elements where he could have just, faked. It could have been an exit scam. And then there's Ruja, who had the OneCoin, which was developed and apparently didn't even have any blockchain behind it. So we've done some storylines around those. What are some of the largest challenges that you've seen, or some of the largest cyber crimes that you've seen involving the massive explosive growth of cryptocurrency?
So sort of the first part of that is, for anything that's going to be done on the dark web, people generally want some form of payment, right? If I'm going to perform X task for you, if I want to sell X amount of stolen data, I want to be paid for it. Otherwise, there's not a lot of point. Right. Granted, there are some people who do hack and leak for fun, but the vast majority of them don't really.
Right, and you can't transfer. And you can't transfer cash. Right,
you could. It'd be a very silly thing to do.
Yeah, I mean that would be traceable, right? So I imagine, right, if they encrypt ransomware in a hospital in Kansas, and they're sitting over somewhere in Eastern Europe, they can't wire transfer funds, so it's got to be done in cryptocurrency, usually Bitcoin or Monero or whatever their coin of choice.
Yeah, and that's sort of, in my opinion, one of the most important elements to the majority of these crimes. Maybe I'm just biased because that's why I enjoy talking about. But I think then the ability to sort of trace these funds and accurately say, okay, where have they gone to? What's occurred with them is a very important step in a lot of these investigations and can sometimes be overlooked. It's a bit more difficult now with how exchanges are a bit more properly regulated. They require proper KYC in a lot of these locations. Criminals get savvy to that. They don't use them. You never catch a group of people with the same sort of easy tricks once or twice. They cop on pretty quickly.
Right. So, how has law enforcement advanced in the tracking of cryptocurrency transactions? And is there, are there models that are designed and, elements to be able to track where the money potentially could have gone, or is it still so convoluted and tough to track?
There are a bunch of sort of third-party tools which law enforcement use now to sort of assist in the tracking of these. A lot of the stuff wasn't in place when I joined the team. There wasn't really a dedicated group of people who understood this and sort of went forward and understood sort of how important they can be in a lot of these investigations, which is sort of where I decided to develop my niche set of skills from. And a lot of these tools now are very user friendly. They're very good for people to use. It's more just the understanding of the concepts and how things work, right? The tool's there to be used, but if people don't understand the sort of the underlying concepts, then it becomes a bit more difficult. There's also some issues which crop up with some of these third-party tools where things can be misattributed, and why a lot of these sort of companies don't want to go forward and provide things in evidence. You have to go and manually sort of get these from the blockchain. They can be tools to assist you in completing your investigation, but you have to go and manually
There's still a lot of labor and follow-up.
Yes, exactly.
Interesting. Mr. Hannigan, you've been very patient and quiet.
I'm enjoying the conversation here.
Well, thank you very much. So tell the ladies and gentlemen about the Innocent Lives Foundation. And then I want to talk about Carl's team over at Searchlight and how they've been assisting innocent lives.
So that's interesting. We're going back probably about 10 years or so in my day job, right? What I do for a social engineer. We were doing an adversarial simulation for an organization, and we found a guy who was molesting little kids and recording it and then trading those recordings on the dark web. And for me, it was, I'm going to say this sounds so naive, and I feel naive saying it, but I thought, like, this is a third world problem. This doesn't happen here in America.
Right.
And by the way, sorry about that.
Didn't you discover this? And I didn't mean to interrupt you, Chris. I'm sorry. But didn't you discover this while you were, like, on site at, like, doing your day job, and then you, like, walked by and saw somebody that...
So it wasn't a physical site. It was we were on the network. So we had gained access to the network. Yeah. And we saw Tor traffic. And I said, to the director, the guy, my point of contact, I'm like, hey, would there be any reason there'd be Tor traffic in this department? And he went, absolutely not. Tell me what it is. I said, I can't, because it's Tor traffic, so I can't really tell you what it is. But I said we could install a keylogger on the machine and then we can see what he's doing. So we installed some software on his machine that night when he was gone that would allow us to see what he was doing, because he was covering his tracks and, deleting cache and using Tor browser and stuff like that. And that's when we found out that he was trading recordings that he had personally made of himself molesting little kids. We got the federal government involved.
In a regular role at a company here in America.
Yeah. He was just a regular employee in a company. He was using company funds to take trips and to do these things. We got a sting operation set up, and he'll be in prison for 150 years. And that felt really good.
Yeah,
that felt amazing. I think it was the first time in my career, because I get to do cool stuff, but that was the first time I thought, wow, I just saved a bunch of little kids.
Yeah,
like
if you get you kind of that's pretty good.
Yeah. I kind of left there going, okay, Chris, I want to do more of this. So I started volunteering for organizations that I thought did similar things, and no insult to them, but they did different things than what I wanted to do. I didn't. It wasn't that I didn't want to help save kids. I did, but I wanted to hunt the predators, right? I wanted to find the bad guys. I didn't want to go find the kids that were being abused. I wanted to stop the supply chain, right? If I can get the bad guys who were supplying this stuff out of the chain, then the bad guys who want to see it don't have it, right? That was my thinking. So 6.5 years ago, I went to my lawyer and I said, hey, Tim, I want to start this thing. I want to do this. How crazy is this? And what do I have to worry about? And he gave me a list of things I got to think about legally and stuff. It took me about a year or so to get that organized. And then 6.5 years ago, we launched ILF with a sole mission, right? It was, we're never going to be vigilantes. So you see those groups out there that like they make believe they're a 13-year-old girl and they're chatting somebody up. Yeah, we don't do that stuff.
Get online. There's like either Dateline or 2020, or there's like you see these groups on Facebook, and they do these like sting operations, and it's pretty good TV to watch. But are those
good TV? But it's bad. It's bad law, because I read somewhere that up to 80+% of those cases get kicked out because I'm not an undercover cop, right? I don't have Carl's background. I don't have a law enforcement degree. So I get on there and let's say I say something where I initiate the conversation in a sexual way, trying to get this guy triggered.
It could be entrapment, and then
and then he gets the case, gets cooked.
All the evidence gets pulled.
Yep. And what these guys are doing is they're going to McDonald's. They're putting this guy's face on Facebook. Now you imagine this: I'm sitting here one day scrolling through Facebook, and I see my next door neighbor. And he's up there, and the guys are putting his face on there. I go grab my gun. Yeah, I'm like, I don't want some pedo living to me, right? And I go and I kill this guy. So now what? I'm liable. If I'm a vigilante group, I'm liable because I put this guy's face on Facebook and told the whole world he's a pedo, right? So we decided, rule number one, what we were going to do is we were going to do the thing that nobody else wanted to do. We were going to go live on the dark web, and we were going to find these forums and these places where all these disgusting people live, and then we were going to try to figure out from the way they talk and what they do and what they say, where they are in the real world on the open, clear web. And in 6.5 years, we've been able to help with 510 cases.
So back up a second. So 510 cases, you guys have developed evidence, turned it over to law enforcement to assist in prosecution.
Yep.
That is
the prosecution part. I want to be clear there. We our mission stops at handling the reporting.
Their investigation. That's more accurate. Fair enough. Right. And wherever the law can take it, law enforcement, it could go farther than you might even think that it goes, or it might.
And that's happened a few times. We've been told.
Right. Or it might be a piece in a bigger investigation.
Yep.
We don't know, right? Because we're not privy to that.
Yeah.
Carl maybe, but we won't know. So this is really interesting, and this gets back to what Carl had mentioned about you're helping piece together these things, but we have those challenges of who are they, right? And then how do we attribute these actions to the specific people?
Yeah. So this is kind of where Searchlight comes into the ILF story, right?
So who is Searchlight? So for people that don't know Searchlight, so who is Searchlight?
It's probably a Carl question. I could do a sales pitch for you if you want.
I'd love to see you try it. I mean, genuinely.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it. So I'll give you my version of who Searchlight is.
Yeah.
Searchlight was started by a guy named Dr. Gareth Owenson, who developed a passion for being able to help law enforcement find data on the dark web and uncover threat actors. So he developed this tool that was basically just for law enforcement. And then maybe going back 2 or 3 years, there was a lot of companies that were like, hey, I would like to have some dark web threat intelligence that you have. And that opened up the eyes of maybe we should start selling this to corporations. And it opened it in a corporate environment where the one side of Searchlight's tool is used for dark web threat intelligence for everyday companies, right? So you sit in front of clients that go, I don't know why do I even need to know about the dark web? Well, this is why, because threat actors are on there and they're targeting your business sector.
Well,
and Searchlight's tool gives them.
How can you defend against something you don't know? Like you have to have the visibility. So,
but Searchlight's tool gives them that knowledge, right? So you want to shine a spotlight, that's what it does.
Mm-hmm.
Now, from my side and law enforcement side, Searchlight also has a set of tools that allows you to go into the places that people don't want to go, like where CSAM is being stored and where people are trading actual humans and trafficking of people. And I don't know the proprietary tech, so I won't be giving anything away, but Searchlight has somehow figured out how they can cache the whole dark web multiple times a day. So if you think about it, if you don't know about the dark web, you can't search it. You can't Google on the dark web. There is no search engine. There's no spiders there's no search algorithms, but Searchlight has made it. So there's a Google for the dark web. So I could use that tool now.
Phenomenal tool.
It is. It's been.
You did it more justice than I could have done.
Well,
though, Carl, like he could sell us anything.
Well, no, but I'll tell you why I'm passionate about it is that one of their employees, Mary D'Angelo, she reached out to me going back a couple years ago, and she was very curious about some mentorship, and then she was like, "Oh, you run the ILF? That's a mission I'm very passionate about. Can I volunteer?"
Wow!
So she became a volunteer at ILF, and then said, "Wow, you guys do a lot of dark web stuff. Have you ever heard of Searchlight?" And I'm like, "No, never heard of you guys." She's like, "Well, let me show you this tool." And she pulls open her screen, does a screen share with me, and she's showing me Cerberus, the name of the tool they have, and I'm like, what the heck is this?
You're like, holy cow, this is.
Well, you can Google the dark web. I'm like, I need this. So lo and behold, she goes and she talks to her bosses, and Searchlight does this amazing thing that we wrote about. They donate licenses to Innocent Lives Foundation. They gave us like $78,000 worth of software. Right?
That is fantastic.
And it changed the nature of our business for ILF. It changed how we do cases. I have a case that I was working for 2 years that I couldn't do anything with. We closed it. We found the guy because I can go in and I typed this guy's moniker, and it showed me that he was on forums I didn't even know existed. And on those forums, he leaked data that allowed me to be able to geolocate him. So a case that we couldn't even work on for 2 years, Searchlight helped me close it. So you want to know why I'm passionate about it and why I can sell it is because it changed our life. It changed our life, and it changed the life for kids and law enforcement.
We're going to have to hire you. You're doing too good of a job.
Yeah, that is really, really remarkable. That's fantastic. I mean, I'm in, and for those that want to get involved, we'll have a link to Searchlight in our show notes, clearly, but we'll also have a link to the Innocent Lives Foundation. If anybody wants to volunteer, they can reach out to you, correct, Chris?
Yes.
And get involved. What a noble cause to get involved with,
Thank
right? And there's various roles, right? It's not like if they volunteer, they have to go into like these creepy forms.
No, we need marketing people, fundraising. We do a lot of education and outreach. So we have groups. I have tons of people that never even touched the dark web or any of that stuff, and they're helping make. We have one person that she writes blogs and newsletters for us to help parents learn how to talk to their kids.
Oh, that's
right.
Cool.
We have a PhD who's writing about trauma and shock, so that way people can come and get that kind of information. I got people who do streaming, live game streaming, to raise money for us. So they never do the content. They're just helping us do that. So I'm glad you asked that question, because sometimes people go, I'd love to volunteer, but I can't deal with that.
I brought it up. Yeah. So we're part of InfoGuard, and we do these public service initiatives where we're training people. And I was talking about Innocent Lives Foundation, and I'm like, if anybody wants to volunteer, please do this. And then later, a couple of people came up to me. They're like, yeah. And I gave them your contact info. But when they were saying it, they're like, well, I'm a little nervous about getting on the dark web, but I'm willing to if it'll help. And I'm like, let me check with Chris, because I don't think you have to do any of that. I think they just need organizational support as well.
Yeah. I had a guy who came and he volunteered because he's like, hey, do you have anyone that's doing like controller work for you? And I'm like, no. And he's like, oh, I was a CPA for years.
Exactly.
He's our controller. Like, you know, he doesn't have to ever see or hear any of the bad stuff. He's just helping us out as a volunteer doing accounting stuff. Right. So, you know, and it's phenomenal that way. But I mean, just to kind of,
and for those wondering too, it is truly a nonprofit. Like you guys don't, it's not like some of the other nonprofit.
I don't make money.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Where the
I have 5 employees, so I do have 5 employees, David. So be honest, I have 5 employees that do get paid because that's their full time job.
Yeah.
But even though I'm the CEO, I'm a volunteer for the organization. My board doesn't get paid. The board is completely all volunteers, and I've never taken a dime from the organization. So I just
want to put that out there, because they're always reticent about stuff like that. So.
Yeah, it's important, I think, because if someone's going to donate money, they want to know where's that money going. Right. And our money goes to the mission 100%. So the employees we have, they're devoted to the mission. I volunteer my time like every other volunteer, and I'm passionate about it. So that's why I do it.
So let's circle back. That's wonderful. So, I mean, I cannot explain or emphasize enough the importance of people wanting, you know, everybody's got skill sets. If you can carve out some free time, depending on where you are in your career evolution, you know, what a great cause to get involved with today, especially as more and more people are remote, right? Like, you could volunteer your time without leaving your house and still help out the organization. What a great way of getting involved in the community and helping online with a great cause, with great results. Holy cow, outstanding results.
Thank you.
I mean, you guys are knocking it out of the park. That's great. So how do we, like, I'm fascinated by the undercover investigations. So, Carl, in the work with Searchlight, do you guys also like go after or help law enforcement or get involved in some of these international, I mean, nothing that you can disclose, obviously, but just a good nod of the head would help me. Like, do you guys get involved in some of these things where they're kind of trying to understand and locate some of these cybercrime gangs? Because some of them are getting so big, like they're major institutions. The revenue that is generated by the Lockbits and the Black Cats of the world, and some of these new ones, like does your work in shining a light on the dark web help out that type of law enforcement also, or are you guys going after individual type predators? Because that's the question.
Yeah, so we don't really work with the law enforcement directly. We provide the tool, we provide training on the tool, and we sort of make the tool as best as it can be to help assist these organizations. The better the tool is, the easier it is to use. The more data that we have in there, the easier their jobs are.
Okay, makes perfect sense. Yeah. What can you share about the tool? Like, is there any? I mean, I would think it's impossible to make. Like, given the nature of the dark web and everybody's coming up from different routers accessing the internet at all, there's no real cache, there's no real indexing that's done, unlike the regular web. And for those that don't understand the technology we're talking about, when you Google something, all of that is indexed, all of that is tracked, whether you know it or not, it is. But on the dark web, in theory, it's not, because they can't, while the search might be there or the prompts or the keystrokes might be there, it can't necessarily be tied back to you until Searchlight apparently figured something out where they're able to figure some of this stuff out.
Yeah, we have a lot of talented data engineers. We have a lot of talented sort of developers who have sort of come together with a lot of the experience from some of the senior members that we have to try and put this tool together. Unfortunately, from the back end side of this, I'm just one of the lowly analysts, so I don't know too much about the back end side of things.
Well, no, nor would anybody that would ever listen understand it anyway. So that's perfectly fine. I was just curious, just in general, high level. I mean, just the caching, just the capturing of all the activity that goes on the dark web, that in of itself over time, I would think would provide so much insight, right? Like being able,
absolutely.
Just being able to capture some of the activity on these forums. And these forums, for those, we've had several episodes where we've gotten on the dark web, we've demonstrated it for people, and it's the Wild West. There's no rules. Like they'll sell, my podcast partner was like, "Hey, there's a tank for sale. Can I get it?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "You're not buying a tank, man." Like they sell everything on the dark web. It's shocking.
Everything, anything.
Yeah, everything. But it's also, obviously, it is the haven, given the anonymity. It's the haven for criminal activity.
Yeah, absolutely. Sort of having any sort of area in which you can do stuff anonymously, sort of the worst of people comes out, right? If there's somewhere that you can make money and do it anonymously, sort of the incentive is there to do whatever you can to try and make that money.
So let me ask you this, because I've been searching for Jerry Cotton, who disappeared. He ran the largest crypto exchange up in Canada for years, and then apparently died in this town in India where they're known for selling fake IDs. And then I met Brett Johnson, who's been on the show several times, and he ran Shadow Crew. And it turns out that Jerry Cotton used to work for Shadow Crew, where they made hundreds of millions of dollars in selling fake IDs and recreating identities. So given that he left with several $100 million missing, and he was the only person with the keys to it, that is possible, right? Like exit scams are still possible, especially in the cryptocurrency. We see a lot of those types of exit scams out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It becomes the sort of one of two mindsets people believe that occurs with exit scams. There's either marketplaces, which are, sort of like eBay's on the dark web, where you can go, you can sell goods. It becomes too big for its boots. It becomes very large. Lots of people are using it, and they get a bit paranoid, and they're like, right, we're just going to shut everything down. We're going to take the money that is in.
Weren't there a couple recently, like in the last year? I thought I read there was a couple decent sized marketplaces that kind of just disappeared, and everybody thought it was either an exit scam or the person got involved or got in trouble through law enforcement. They just disappeared.
Absolutely. If you go back and look over it every year, you'll see, plenty of them. They come, they go. It's very commonplace. It's just sort of the volatility of the environment. These things will occur. They'll be hacked. They'll decide it's not worth the trouble anymore. They'll have set it up at the start to be like, right, when we hit X amount, we're just going to pull, we're going to take the money, we're going to run. It's very, very common.
That's unbelievable. Chris, in your work, now that I have you guys on here, in your work, you're the master of social engineering, like both in tracking it over decades, tracking the use of vishing, all of the tactics. When you go on the dark web or you see elements of the dark web, is social engineering one of the main tactics used like among criminals as well?
So threat actor groups, we found a whole forum on the dark web that was a training site for how to use social engineering.
That's what I wanted to know.
I found a whole. Sadly, they're using a lot of my stuff, but they're training people in social engineering. We found an ad, a forum that did ads, and there was a group, a threat actor group, looking for American females or females with American accents to do vishing calls, and they were paying them up to $30,000 per confirmed compromised record. And I'm thinking that is huge payday. Huge. Per confirmed compromised record. And it was for a particular organization, which I won't say the name, but it was a very, very large financial organization. So, you can go in there and get jobs doing that stuff. The threat actor groups that we see, the ransomware groups, many of the stories involve phishing, or they involve a vishing call, or they involve a combination of those things. So we're seeing nowadays you blend that with the AI, right? We just found, I can't even believe this. We found an AI tool that can change your accent, so you sound either British or American.
Yes.
Right. So and there's a legitimate use. They're selling it to call centers.
Correct.
Right, that only have foreigners, and now they're we're not trusting them as Americans or Brits, so now they can change their accents so they're more trustworthy. Well, the bad guys go, we're going to use that, so they're now changing their accents. We found deepfake technology being used, right? We're cloning voices. I mean, look at that thing. I don't know if you heard the news story about the Hong Kong deepfake, right? This threat actor group made a deepfake of the CFO, got on a video call with the employee, had him transfer $25 million, right? Because of so we're seeing social engineering be used to an unprecedented level. And then if we want to I don't want to get too dark, but the way it's being used against children right now. So there's a whole new group of people, and there's a massive ring of this in the Ivory Coast in Africa, and they're on the dark web talking about this. They get kids to send naked pictures by going into these chat rooms or these gaming sites and saying their kids are the same age. They get them to send a picture, and then as soon as they get the picture, they exploit them, and they say, now you're going to go steal money from your parents. You're going to give us your parents' credit card number, or you're going to do this or that, or we're going to post this on the internet. Now let's take it one step even more
they can
further.
Manipulate that picture, right? They can and make the picture look in compromising.
Even worse now, they're doing that where they're getting pictures of the kids clothed, and they're running that deep fake tech, making them look nude, and they're saying, even though you know this is not you, we're going to post this online. And the kids, and this is as young as 10 years old. This is happening to kids. And we've seen, sadly, across the U.S., and I'm not sure about stats in the U.K., but across the U.S., a rash of suicides from the stress that children are having due to this. So social engineering is being used in every way possible, and that's why I think this topic is so important, and parents need to know to talk to their kids, and it's just so, it's something that needs to be talked about a lot more.
Let's talk about that briefly as we wind down here. Like, what are some of the things that parents can do when they, even if they don't sense that anything's going, what can they do first to check in with their kids?
Okay. And then, I love this question.
Yeah, because oftentimes whenever I see best practices, it's like, well, if you think your kids are being cyberbullied, do this. And I'm like, most parents I've talked to didn't know, because I've talked to parents that unfortunately have had children commit suicide from cyberbullying. I've met several of them, and it's horrible. And the scariest thing is they said, I had no idea.
Yeah. So this is what I tell parents all the time. Let's not even go to that level. Let's back up 5 steps. Many of the children that escape without hurting themselves, when interviewed and asked, why didn't you talk to your parents, or why didn't you talk to somebody? They said, because I was afraid they would hate me. I'm afraid they would feel disappointment, or they would tell me how stupid I am. Right. So I tell parents to even start this, you have to have a conversation with your kids. Your kids have to know that you're their advocate, not their adversary. So you need to have a conversation and say, look, I'm not saying anything happened. I don't know if you're experiencing this, but if you've ever been exploited, or if you've ever sent a nude picture, or if you've ever been bullied, and you come to me, I promise to not tell you how stupid you are. I promise to hear you out, and I promise to be your advocate, and we're going to fight this. And then the most important thing is you have to follow through in that. So if your kid comes to you and says, Mom, I was talking to this boy, and I thought he was my age, and I sent him a picture, you can't go, how dumb can you be? You can't do that. They'll never trust you again. You have to take all those emotions, bottle them up, leave, go punch a pillow, do whatever you need to do, and then come back and you cry with her, you hug her, and you tell her you're going to get it fixed. Those parents that do that, those kids escape. They may still get duped. They may still have a problem, but they escape without self-harm or suicidal thoughts. Right. And those kids can escape and have a whole life in front of them, even though they fell for that. So I say, don't even go to the point of where you're waiting for them to be bullied or exploited. Start way before that and tell your kids that it's fine. Now, if you have really young kids on technology, monitor those things. Right. I know it makes you feel like a bad parent, but monitor.
Do that. Yeah. There's Bark has a system.
Yep.
There's a lot of really helpful tools and platforms where even if they have platforms that can search for kids texting without you monitoring even what they're texting. If they say something about that reflects suicidal ideation, it'll alert you as a parent to go have a conversation with them.
Well, I'll tell you what I did with my daughter when she was young. She's now older, so we don't monitor her anymore. She's an adult. But I sat her down and I said,
"She may get mad."
Yeah, I said, "Here's what I want to put on your phone," right? And I showed her the app, and I let her watch me install it. I let her watch me choose what settings. And I told her, I don't want to read your personal messages. I don't want to read your diary. I don't want to read your emails. I want to protect you. So I said, you're watching me do it. I'm not doing this stealthily. I'm not doing it in secret. So you find out and you don't trust me. She didn't like it, but at least I showed her everything. And I said, so here's the rule. If you don't want me to see it, then don't do it on the phone. Right? That's it. Don't do it here because I'm going to see it. So if you do something wrong, I'm going to see it. I said, but I'm not going to read your personal emails. I'm not going to read your diaries. I'm not going to read your messages to your friends. I just don't want you sending pictures or doing things like that. And, we helped her navigate those years.
That's really
and as she got older, we lessened the monitoring because she proved to be more and more trustworthy.
I was going to say, she proved over time to be responsible and self-contained. So That's fantastic. Hey, I want to thank you both for being on today. It was really, really enlightening. Carl, thank you for all the work that you do. I'm so glad that you got into law enforcement and that you're doing this work. It's phenomenal.
Thank you.
I'm really proud to have met you and the work that you guys do. And Mr. Hannigy, Chris, obviously, I can't say enough or sing enough of your praises. You do remarkable work, and you're doing it for the right reasons. So the intent behind it is excellent, and the power of the skills. And we'll have a link. I'm taking on a new role at my job, and I have a national team now, and they're like, what are some of the good sales books that you can, recommend to me? And my first one was Human Hacking by Chris Hannigy.
Well, thank you.
I'm like, look, it's not designed for sales, but it's designed for social engineering in your daily life and how to recognize it, how to leverage it. It's communication skills. It's listening. It's really, really powerful stuff. It's very effective. It's very helpful. So great stuff, gentlemen. No, thank you both. We really, really appreciate it. And we will look for this episode to be live very soon. I want to thank you both. Do either of you have any parting words or any suggestions? Any best practices you want to share to the audience? Like, don't go on.
I'll just say, again, I want to just say thank you to Searchlight because, that tool that they donated to Innocent Lives Foundation has helped us dramatically change the way that we're doing our work and close more cases. So I'm really glad. And also to you, David, because taking your time and your platform to bring this kind of a message, which is not a popular one, it's a difficult one, and it's hard to talk about and it's hard to listen, but using your platform to do that is a really honorable way to use your platform for that.
We got to do something. Thank you. I mean, we got to do something worthwhile. Like, we can't just sit here and investigate all the crime. Like, we've got to like illustrate people like you that are actually making a difference. And so over 510 investigations turned over. We're looking for, we're definitely going to bring you back beforehand, but when we crack 1,000, we need to celebrate. That'll be
that's going to be a big celebration.
So very good. Carl, thank you so much for joining us from the UK.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. It's late over there, so thank you very much for being here. So thank you so much, gentlemen. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Well, that wraps this up. Thanks for joining, everybody. Hope you got value out of digging deeper behind the scenes of security and cybercrime today. Please don't forget to help keep this going by subscribing free to our YouTube channel at Cybercrime Junkies Podcast, and download and enjoy all of our past episodes on Apple and Spotify podcasts so we can continue to bring you more of what matters. This is Cybercrime Junkies, and we thank you for joining us. Well, things aren't getting any safer online, and we're excited to tell you about our exclusive offer for Aura, which is linked in the show notes below. Hey everyone, this is your host, David Morrow, and we often get asked about individual safety and ways to protect loved ones or small business employees when they're online. So we turned to our friends at Cyber Threat Group, a full-service security consultancy located here in the US, and they told us all about Aura. You might have even seen actor Robert Downey Jr. in their television ads. Look, identity theft isn't cheap. The FTC reports that Americans lost $8.8 billion in identity theft and personal fraud this year, and can cost you personally hundreds of thousands of dollars. Aura provides it all. Financial and identity theft protection, a lightning-fast VPN for online privacy, antivirus, a password manager, and even parental controls for safe gaming and spam call protection. So protect your family or your employees when they get online. Give the gift of online safety. Check out the link in our show notes from our friends at Cyber Threat Group today. Aura is a great way to protect yourselves online. Check out Aura today and stay safe online.